Saint Francis of Assisi 1182, October 3, 1226, is one of the most beloved and significant saints in Christian history. He is remembered for his radical embrace of poverty, his love for all of God's creation, and the establishment of the Franciscan Order, which had a profound impact on the Church and Christian spirituality. Early life and conversion 1182 to 1206. Birth and family background. Francis was born Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone in Assisi, Italy, to a wealthy merchant family. His father, Pietro Bernardone, was a successful cloth merchant, while his mother, Pica, was of noble birth. Baptized Giovanni, he was later called Francesco by his father, who had a passion for France and business. Youth and worldly ambitions. As a young man, Francis enjoyed a carefree life, marked by a love for revelry, music, and fine clothes. He sought adventure and prestige, aiming to become a knight. However, in 1202, he was captured during a battle between Assisi and Perugia and spent a year in captivity. This event planted seeds of transformation. Spiritual awakening. After his release, Francis's inner life began to change. A serious illness led him to reflect on his spiritual state. While on a pilgrimage to Rome, he had a profound experience of seeing the poverty of beggars, leading him to exchange clothes with a beggar and spend time in contemplation. Renunciation of wealth. In 1206, Francis experienced a vision while praying in the dilapidated church of San Damiano. He heard Christ on the crucifix say, "Francis, rebuild my church, which is falling into ruins." Taking this literally at first, Francis began restoring churches around Assisi, selling his father's cloth to fund the efforts. His father, angered by his behavior, demanded Francis return the money. In a dramatic gesture before the bishop, Francis renounced his inheritance, stripping naked and declaring that from then on, he would only serve God the Father. Establishment of the Franciscan Order 1206 to 1215. Life of poverty. Francis embraced radical poverty and began to live as a wandering preacher. He wore a simple tunic, begged for food, and worked to restore abandoned churches. His simplicity and joy attracted followers who wanted to live in the same way. By 1209, a small group had formed, and they sought papal approval for their way of life. Approval by Pope Innocent III. In 1209, Francis and his companions traveled to Rome to seek approval for their rule of life. Pope Innocent III, though initially hesitant, had a dream in which he saw Francis holding up the crumbling church of St. John Lateran. Moved by this vision, the Pope granted verbal approval for the new order, which would come to be known as the Order of Friars Minor. Franciscans. Ministry and work 1215 to 1220. Missionary journeys. Francis and his companions spread throughout Italy and beyond, preaching repentance, love of God, and care for the poor. Francis embarked on missionary journeys, including a famous trip to Egypt during the Fifth Crusade, where he sought peace by meeting with Sultan Al-Kamil in 1219. Though he did not convert the Sultan, the encounter was peaceful and respected. Founding of the Poor Clares. In 1212, inspired by Francis, a noblewoman named Clare of Assisi sought to live a life of poverty and devotion. Francis helped her establish the Order of Poor Ladies, later known as the Poor Clares, a contemplative order of women dedicated to prayer and poverty. Canticle of the Sun. One of Francis's most famous legacies is his hymn, the Canticle of the Sunday or Canticle of the Creatures, written in 1224. It is a joyful praise of God through all elements of creation, from the sun and moon to the earth and fire. This hymn reflects his deep communion with nature, seeing all of creation as a reflection of God's love. Stigmata and later years 1224 to 1226. Receiving the stigmata. In 1224, Francis retired to Mount La Verna for a period of prayer and fasting. During this retreat, he had a mystical vision of a seraph, an angel with 6 wings, and received the stigmata with the marks of Christ's wounds in his hands, feet, and side. This was the first recorded instance of a Christian receiving the stigmata. Francis suffered greatly from the wounds, but bore them joyfully as a sign of his union with Christ's suffering. Declining health. As Francis's health deteriorated, he experienced blindness and intense physical pain. Despite this, he continued to sing praises to God, even composing additional verses to the Canticle of the Sun, including a verse praising Sister Death. Death and canonization 1226 to 1228. On October 3, 1226, Francis died at the age of 44, surrounded by his brothers at the Portiuncula, the small chapel he had restored near Assisi. As he approached death, he asked to be laid on the bare ground to embrace Sister Death with humility and joy. Canonization. Francis was canonized by Pope Gregory IX on July 16, 1228, just 2 years after his death. His tomb, located in the Basilica of St. Francis in Assisi, became a major pilgrimage site. Legends. The Wolf of Gubbio. Francis reportedly tamed a ferocious wolf that had been terrorizing the town of Gubbio. After speaking to the wolf, Francis brokered peace between the animal and the townspeople, who agreed to feed it if it stopped attacking. Miracles after his death. Many miracles were attributed to Francis after his death, particularly healings at his tomb. His sanctity and message of peace, poverty, and love for creation continued to inspire countless Christians. Legacy. St. Francis's influence extends far beyond his own life. He is revered as the patron saint of animals, ecology, and Italy. The Franciscan Order grew rapidly after his death and remains a vital part of the Catholic Church today. His spirituality of simplicity, love for the poor, and connection with nature have had a lasting impact on Christian thought and practice. In 1979, Pope John Paul II declared St. Francis the patron saint of ecology. Pope Francis, elected in 2013, took his papal name in honor of St. Francis of Assisi, emphasizing the importance of caring for the poor and the environment, central themes in Francis's life. St. Francis of Assisi remains a powerful symbol of peace, humility, and reverence for all life, embodying the Christian ideal of living in harmony with creation and selfless love for others.